Good evening, everyone. Real quick announcement for all the students, the swipe system will be up shortly. Just give us a couple moments, all right? Welcome to an evening with the candidates. We are thrilled to have you all here for what promises to be an engaging and informative week. Tonight's event offers a unique opportunity for the citizens of Peach County to hear directly from the candidates who are seeking to serve in various capacities. It's a chance to learn about their visions for our community, ask questions, and engage in meaningful dialogue. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Mr. Charles Knight. Mr. Knight is a proud 2023 graduate of Fort Valley State University. This is where he learned his degree in computer science. Since graduating, he has been working full-time as a computer scientist at Robins Air Force Base. Not only is Mr. Knight a rising professional, but he also has a strong connection to our community as a former student intern with Peach Concerned Citizens. We are excited to have him lead us through tonight's forum. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Charles Knight.
It's my honor tonight to be your moderator for this event, even with the candidates. We will start out with an opening statements from each candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give their opening statement. We'll start out with the Office of Sheriff.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Wilkes Shannon. I'm running for Peach County Sheriff. I was born and raised in Byron, went to school in Byron, went to Byron Elementary, Byron Middle, Peach County High School. I joined the Peach County Sheriff's Office in 1997, where I moved up in ranks, went to patrol in 2000, became supervisor in 2003. That was corporal. Made sergeant in 2005. 2012, I became a school resource officer at Fort Valley Middle School. In 2015, I became an investigator where I currently work now. I've been there a little over 27 years, almost 28. Married, 4 kids. My wife is from Fort Valley, Krista Shannon. And my kids are 30, 29, 25, and 19.
Now we have candidate Ty Matthews. Please stand, the other candidates when you give your introduction as I ask you questions, please. Sorry about that. You can go now. Mr. Matthews.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is a very important night for you all to be able to find out what we're about and who we are. And I would like to start out. My name is Ty Ben Matthews. I'm the Republican candidate for sheriff in Peach County. I was born and raised in Franklin, Indiana, in a small farming town. At 18, I joined the United States military. I spent 7 years in the United States Army and got out after the Gulf War. Strange chain of events happened. I was supposed to be a Kentucky State Trooper, and a new governor got elected and came in and put in a hiring freeze. So we had family from Georgia down in Chris County. So I was down here on vacation. I met the chief of police for the city of Cordele in 1991, and I was hired as an officer in the city of Cordele. I moved up the ranks. I was a staff sergeant. I was a supervisor. I retired from Cordele PD with 15 years of service. I moved up to Fort Valley, and I was a lieutenant with the Fort Valley Police Department for 5 years. Left there and spent 7 years with the Irwin County Sheriff's Department, running the detail for ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, out of Atlanta. I was a lieutenant. I lived there for 7 years. Worked for Central Georgia Technical College as a sergeant, as a shift commander, and then I have been and am currently the chief of police for the city of Roberta, Georgia. I've lived in Peach County since 2007, and I feel the need. I have 3 children, and they're all grown. I am single, and I have 3 grandchildren. Matter of fact, my son's in the Army, and my daughter-in-law and my grandson live with me, and he will be raised and reared here in Peach County. So, thank you.
Next, we have the opening statements for the Office of Coroner, Mr. Kerry Roots and Ms. Shalonda P. Williams. Mr. Roots.
Hello, I'm Kerry Roots. I'm the Peach County Coroner, and I appreciate y'all having us here tonight. I've been the coroner for 30 years. Prior to being coroner, I was a deputy coroner for 13 years, so I've had approximately 43 years involved with the coroner's office. The coroner's job is a little different from most jobs. We deal strictly with death. We only call out when there's a death. And the coroner is a voice for the dead. He plays a very important part in helping to determine the cause and manner of death. And I want to read you a few things off so I won't leave anything out when the coroner is actually called. As a result of violence, including homicide, suicide, or any kind of casualty, suddenly when in apparent good health, including accidents, motor vehicle accidents, and so on, in any suspicious or unusual manner, with particular attention to those at risk of abuse due to age, physical or mental limitations. When an inmate of a state hospital, state, county, or city penal institution, death within 24 hours of admission, including those admitted in an unconscious state without charge, changed to a hospital. Children 0 to 18 years old, if death is unexpected or unexplained. Fetal demise, anesthesia deaths, and all dead on arrival cases to a hospital. I put a lot of time into this office. I can remember when I wasn't really getting paid anything, and you don't get paid a lot now, but I can remember when my check, the county gave my check, it was for 2 cents. And for several years, the first checks for about a year was for 1 cent. I got a raise and went up to 2 cents the next year. But anyhow, the government stepped in and they do have made changes in that. But I have over 800 hours of death investigations. I took special schooling on infant deaths. I did that on my own. But I appreciate the support that the people of Peach County have given me through the years, and I hope I can continue to help you. And there's one other thing: when there's a death of a person that has no family, what we do is that the county pays $700. I give that $700 to the vault company to dig the grave and furnish a concrete vault, and I furnish a casket at my cost. Nobody that dies in Peach County, if went out there and just dug a hole and put them in it. I furnish a casket at my cost. My son takes the $700. He has a vault company, and he furnishes a vault, digs a grave, which he is literally going in the hole. But I just want to let people know I appreciate y'all, and I hope none of you ever have any dealings with me, but I thank you for having us.
Ms. Williams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shalonda Williams. I'm the Democratic candidate for coroner. I'm a resident of Peach County. for the last 50 years, or 50 years of my life. The majority of my life is spent in Fort Valley. The last 14 years have been in Byron. I am married to my husband Larry. We've been married 29 years and we have one son. Larry's 1 and he is 27 years old. I am a nurse by trade. I've been a nurse for 23 years now, so I have a vast experience of nursing. I started out my career in the nursing home long-term care back in 2001. From there, I went to Houston Medical Center as a staff nurse, worked myself up through the ranks, became a nursing manager over a 54-bed unit there, dealing all types of surgery, patients, general med surg. I'm also a certified medical surgical nurse, meaning that I am a specialty in that area. Currently, I am the nursing director of patient care at Atrium Health Navicent Rehab Hospital, where I oversee approximately 115 employees, and I'm responsible for that daily operations of that hospital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I get called frequently during the day, during the night, while I'm there. Matter of fact, I was rushing to get here today because we have a state investigator that has been there for the last 2 days, and we had to finish up that investigation, so I rushed from there to here. I was also chief nurse at Regency Hospital, that's a long-term acute care hospital, where we took care of patients that were hard to wean off the ventilator, wound care, and a bunch of other things. And I've also been a nursing director at Coliseum Medical Center, which is now Piedmont. I've also had the opportunity to contract myself out with litigation process where attorneys would send me files to look over to make sure nurses follow their proper protocol, processes, and procedure when they are about to go through litigation process. So that's some of the work that I have done. And then just continue to do investigations if we have patients in the hospital who died from a sentinel event, meaning that death was not warranted and how it happened. So that's something that I do on a daily basis as well. So I think my experience as nursing would be a great opportunity and a great advantage to the Office of Coroner. So if you want someone that has the medical experience, the medical background, who wants to progress, think forward, who's compassionate and caring, and has that leadership and experience, then I'm your candidate for coroner, Shalonda Williams.
Next, we will have the opening statement for our candidate for Superior Court Clerk, Ms. Katrina Portman.
Good evening. First, I want to say thank you for this lovely event this evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Katrina Corbin. I am originally from Crawford County. I moved here to Peach County about 3.5 years ago. I currently work as Chief Clerk of Probate Court in Peach County, where I have been working in the office for 5 years. I've been Chief Clerk for almost 3 years now. I have one son. He is 15 years old. I'm sorry, he's 14, almost 15. I am dedicated to our community. I want to bring a fresh face to Superior Court, organization and efficiency. So my motto has been, is, and always will be, dedicated to all people, determined to make a difference, and driven to make Peach County its best. Thank you.
Next, we will have opening statements for our second House Congressional District from Mr. Wayne Johnson.
Can y'all hear me back there? Good. I'm Dr. Wayne Johnson. I'm a candidate for the United States Congress. I'm proud to be here, pleased to be here, and I want to thank you all for coming out. I know by coming out, you're also going to be the people that vote, and so that's very important. I grew up in Macon, Georgia. I'm joined tonight with my wife of 51 years, Joy. She'll wave to you in a moment. And bottom line, the reason I'm running for the United States Congress is I want to make a difference in the lives of people in middle and southwest Georgia. This is a district that runs from Macon to Thomasville to Bainbridge and back up to Columbus. And we've got a lot of diversity in this district. We've got a lot of people that are suffering economically in this district. I've got some plans on how to make people's economic lives better. I'll be answering the questions. I'll certainly encourage you to go to johnsoncongress.com. But the most important thing I can say as the person that would like to have the honor of representing you is I give a damn. I care about what's important to you, and I ask you to trust me with your vote and put me to the test. Thank you.
Our other candidate, Sanford Bishop, is absent due to the fact that he had to go to President Carter's 100th birthday. But we have his campaign manager here, David Britt, to give a statement on his behalf.
Good evening. Good evening. It is so great to be here. My sister is a Fort Valley graduate, so I feel like I'm home. Again, my name is David Britt. I represent Congressman Sanford Bishop, the Democratic candidate for the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia, and I want to read a statement that he sent for Fort Valley. I sincerely regret that I am not able to join you for tonight's candidate forum. I will be attending the events in Plains, Georgia to commemorate the 100th birthday of Georgia's native son and our 39th president, Jimmy Carter. I have been committed to the people of Georgia's 2nd District for 32 years by using the political process to work for jobs and stronger economy, affordable and accessible health care, a strong national defense, safe communities, free of drugs and crime, sustainable production of agriculture, and a strong national defense within the context of a balanced budget. I will continue to fight, as I have always done, to make sure that our district continues to get its fair share of federal resources. I have delivered billions of dollars back to our district to improve the quality of life for all of our citizens. I have been accessible, and my office has been accessible in providing constituent services to constituents who have issues with our federal government. I want to continue to work for you and ask that you extend my contract for another 2 years. I wish you the very best for a successful forum, and I also give a damn. You didn't write, I just want to put that in there. With personal regards, I remain Sanford D. Bishop Jr., Member of Congress.
And by the way, since he piggybacked on me, I'm going to piggyback on him. I just left the President Carter's birthday celebration in Plains, Georgia. It was great to see 100 new United States citizens sworn in.
Now we have our candidates for County Commissioner Post 5, Mr. Columbus Alderman.
Good evening, Wildcats. Good evening, Wildcats. I am Columbus Alderman. I am running for County Commissioner Post 5 at large here in Peach County. I am an alumni of Fort Valley State University, born and raised in Valdosta, Georgia. Came up here in 1990, working in Piggly Wiggly. Met my wife, who's from Fort Valley, Tasha Watson. She and I have 3 kids together. Oldest son, all of them came to Peach County Public School. All of them. So, then matriculated here at Fort Valley State University. Columbus graduated with a degree in Ag Economics. My daughter, Ronnie, graduated Criminal Justice. Timothy just graduated last May. He was a student athlete, played football. He graduated with Ag Engineering. He's currently at Austin P right now. And so we would just like to say we are here. We love this community. We've been in this community over 30 years, providing resources, helping each and every one that we could. There's nothing that we wouldn't do for this community. So this takes an honor. It's a privilege to stand before you to want to represent this community. I see the needs of this community day in and day out. I'm just not passing through here. I've invested in this community, and I will continue to invest in this community. I ask you for your vote. Continue to put trust in me for the things that we have done, and we can continue to build upon those things and take these kind of vote. Thank you.
Our other candidate for County Commissioner Post 5, Wade Younger, is running behind other business right now. But at this point, we will enter into the questionnaire portion of the evening. First, we'll have the office of sheriff. I will ask each candidate a question. You will have 2 minutes to respond. The timekeeper will raise his hand when your time is up, and I'll say time. The first question is related to gun violence and gang concerns. What specific strategies do you plan to implement to address the increase in gun violence in our community? How will you collaborate with local, state, and federal agencies to reduce access to illegal firearms? Mr. Matthews?
Stand up. I live right here in the city limits of Fort Valley. I've lived in the city limits of Fort Valley since 2007. I live off Shanley Drive, a couple blocks from Tapatio. I hear what goes on in this town. I hear the sirens and everything else. Fort Valley has gotten out of control. So we need a sheriff that's going to be strong on crime. When it comes to gun violence, there are programs with the ATF where we can look at things, and if it falls under a federal charge, we will charge the subjects federally. This is something that cannot be taken lightly, but at the same time, we cannot jeopardize our right under the Second Amendment to bear arms. So there's things that we can do in schools, there's different programs we can do, there's different things that we can do that we will implement to let folks understand that a gun is not a toy, it is a tool. And we will be tough on crime.
Yes, Fort Valley has changed in the last couple of years. And I'm gonna be honest and tell you one of the reasons why. The Peach County Sheriff's Office has had a joint task force, a drug unit, and a SWAT team. We had a chief that came here a couple of years ago and decided that he wanted to pull all his people out of the drug unit and the SWAT team. He wanted to start his own drug unit and SWAT team. He didn't have enough people. And since that happened, that's when our crime has really gone sky high. I mean, it's ridiculous for our beautiful city of Fort Valley to have as much crime as it is now. My plans is to get with the FBI, Safe Streets, and we will come up with some kind of program with the ATF to get some of these guns off the street. You get caught with a gun, we're going to deal with it. We can't do it by ourselves, but I am trying to put together a gang unit between Byron and Fort Valley and the college. We have a gang unit, and we will deal with some of this stuff. We get an area where we have a lot of problems, we'll pinpoint it, we'll go there and take care of business. But like I say, not to point fingers, but I'm just being honest to the citizens, because that's what I'm supposed to do. It's because of some of the stuff that happened in Fort Valley, where they backed out our task force, and people have just gone crazy. And it's gonna take the village to get back together with the gang unit, drug unit. We still have a SWAT team to be able to handle some of these high-risk warrants with these weapons. And I would love to see the ATF and the FBI Safe Street to come down and help us like they did in Millersville a couple of years ago. They were able to get control of it. They weren't able to completely stop it, but they were able to get better control of it. And that is my plan on January 1st, 2025 as your Peach County Sheriff.
Our next question to the Office of Sheriff is about cultural competency training. How will you ensure your officers are properly trained in cultural competency and de-escalation techniques, particularly in neighborhoods that may feel over-policed or unfairly targeted? We'll let Mr. Shane go first.
Yes, there's all kind of training out there. I will make sure that our guys get training. You can get all the training you want, all the training that's out there, but the number one thing is to get deputies to get out their cars, meet these people. If you have a minority neighborhood, go speak to these people, talk to these people, and the main thing is communication. Communicate with these neighborhoods and communicate with these people, let them know that what we're looking for, and also ask them what they're looking for. What do we need to do to help them, instead of just making contact with them on the traffic stop or when they get ready, if something happens major in their family or something. If that does happen, when you pull up, they should be able to know you by your name. If not your first name, your last name. And that would give them a little bit of comfort knowing that they have spoken with you, and you have communicated with them. But that's the key, communication to the public and the Peach County Sheriff's Office. We've got to get better on communication.
Good question. First of all, you have to have a sheriff's department that is open to the public. The sheriff's department belongs to the citizens of Peach County. The sheriff is just one who was elected and fortunate enough to lead that department. For way too long, it's been shut. It's hard to get a hold of the sheriff. You gotta go through a chief deputy. You gotta go through a secretary. I will be accessible to the people of Peach County. I work for you. And on January 1st, the first thing that we will start doing is very plain and simple. It will change. I will be a sheriff that will be out in public, not sitting in the office all the time. I'll be out in public. I'll be in your neighborhoods. I'll be talking to you. You'll be open to tell me what's going on. You can call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll have a number straight to me. The biggest thing is people don't understand that we have better trained officers now than we've ever had. Basic mandates fixing to change on January 1st. We're doubling, almost tripling the amount of training that these officers will get. But we're always open to more training. But you have to realize it takes, as my opponent said, it takes a village. It takes a two-way street. Part of that is being open, being honest, being transparent. When things are going on, we won't hide. We will tell you what's going on. There have been many things here since I lived here, starting in 2007, that it went on in the sheriff's department, and there was never any answers. The public was never notified of what went on with certain things. So,
Our last question for the Office of Sheriff regards mental health. How will you ensure that deputies and corrections officers are trained to properly handle individuals with mental health issues, both during arrest and while they are incarcerated?
Mental health. That is almost as worse as the gang violence. I will ensure that our people, first of all, be able to see and tell mental health, to be able to identify right away. We have correct health that comes through the jail, which is up on the Middle Flint, and they deal with the inmates that are already incarcerated with mental health. They're supposed to follow up with the inmates when they get out of jail, make sure they keep their appointments and keep their medicine. You will never get enough training for mental health. That is one of my biggest concerns, mental health and dealing with it. If we go out on the scene, which have happened, and thank God it haven't happened here, but surrounding counties where a mental health person was in the house barricaded by himself. Departments take it up on themselves to go in and get that person, but he's in there by himself. I don't see no reason why we should wait. We should wait and let professionals come out there and make sure the scene is secure, make sure they're secure, so they can talk to these people. A lot of times you got mental health people, you got people my size, and SWAT gear, guns. That makes it worse sometimes. So we're gonna definitely work on the mental health, especially if we get a call out in the public where they're in the house barricaded. At that time, nobody's in there that they can hurt. If they want to hurt themselves, we're gonna still try to save them, but we're gonna take our time and let the professionals deal with the mental health. We're not gonna just jump and go kick in the door and arrest these people. We're gonna take our time and let the professionals deal with it. And we're gonna keep the training up for them to keep identifying the inmates that's in the jail dealing with mental health. And we're gonna keep with correct health, which is Middle Flint. And we're gonna keep working with them on mental health.
Exactly, more training. Mental health is one of the have to deal with. People don't understand. You can call 988 and get help that way. But when you call 911, we can't shirk our duty. We have to respond. We have to push the state for more mental health, for more mental health agencies, for more mental health workers to help get out and help the problems that police departments and sheriff departments are having. There's money, it comes out, but it stays right around Metro Atlanta. It never seems to filter down to Middle and South Georgia. It is something that you have to be very aware of, but we have to understand that all law enforcement calls are fluid, very fluid. They can change in a moment. They can change 2 or 3 times in a moment. So we have to be prepared. But yes, if the situation allows us to take our time, by all means, we'll take as much time as it takes to bring that person out safely and give them the mental health help that they deserve. But we also have to be aware of our surroundings and the community and the people that live in that neighborhood. If they're in danger, we cannot allow them to be hurt or injured or killed. So it is a very fine line that we have to work. And that's one thing with my experience as a chief. As a chief executive, I have to deal with this every day. So on November 1st, when I'm sworn in, you'll have a candidate that is used to dealing with things like this and not trying to catch up or be behind the power curve.
Thank you to our candidates for the office of sheriff. Now we move on to the office of coroner. The first question will deal with ensuring accurate death determinations. What protocols will you put in place to ensure that every death investigation is conducted thoroughly and with the highest degree of accuracy, especially in cases where the cause of death is not immediately clear? We'll start with Mr. Brooks.
One thing I left out a while ago, I'm gonna say right quick, I need to thank my wife, my 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 2 daughter-in-laws and 2 son-in-laws. So now, get back to the question, we work with, the coroner works with whatever investigative team is, whether it's the city, county, or whoever it is. We work closely with them to determine the cause of death. And we look at the health history, and we check the body good, and if there's any doubt, it's the coroner's responsibility to get that body to the crime lab in Macon, or sometimes Decatur, or sometimes Pooler, Georgia. It's left up to the coroner to get that body down. But we do a thorough investigation, and I've had, out of the last 18 drug-related deaths, 15 of them have been related to fentanyl. Even if there's any doubt about it, there's no injuries, anything like that, or no history, a lot of times I'll draw blood and have it checked. And we've had fentanyl deaths from teenagers on up in the 70s. But we might do a thorough investigation. As far as I know, I've probably signed over 3,000 death certificates, and I had to have the first complaint. Now, sometimes we have these kids playing Russian roulette. There's a problem now. It's the GBI says write it up as a suicide, and that's what we do. I understand the parents get upset about that, saying it's accidental. The GBI says if you stick a gun to your head and pull the trigger, you know what? There's a chance you're killing yourself. But we do a thorough investigation. We don't leave anything out. We have good teams in the city, the county, Byron. We work with the Warner Robins Police Department and all the area that was annexed by Houston County. Work with the college, but we work together. The main thing is having good teamwork. We don't sit back and not do anything. We check everything close.
Ms. Williams.
Shalonda Williams, Democratic candidate for coroner. So the first thing you want to do when you, what process to put in place to make sure deaths are accurate the first thing you want to do is determine the cause of death. Is it a suicide? Is it natural death? Unnatural death? Whether it's homicide, first you want to make sure that you have the correct cause of death. And then next, if it's homicide or anything that we don't know, we want to make sure that we are working with the sheriff's office, the police department, or GBI, or whoever, to make sure that the crime scene is secure. Making sure that no one is touching that body. Looking at the body for any evidence of any objective, subjective evidence that may happen. If it's possible suicide and we're not sure, you may have to send that body off to be investigated and do an autopsy to make sure that it is investigated and looked upon to make sure that that death was actually a suicide, because sometimes suicide, things can happen with suicide where it can actually not be suicide, it can be actually a murder. Did that patient have any medical history? If they didn't have any medical history or hasn't seen a physician, you want to make sure that you are getting that body and getting possible autopsy. You just want to make sure that you are identifying the cause of the death from the beginning to make sure that you're getting that exact cause of death to make that process and ease an investigation. And you also want to build those relationships and collaboration with your sheriffs and your investigators to make sure that everyone is working in sync and everyone is going in properly at the correct time to make sure that that death process is being investigated correctly.
The next question will deal with technology and innovation. What technological improvements or tools would you bring to the coroner's office to improve the efficiency and accuracy of investigations? Ms. Williams?
I think now, with technology and accuracy, we may have to use some type of telehealth technology or any type of technology. You may not be able to be at the scene or wherever you need to be at that time. You may need to talk or investigate with someone else. You want to make sure that you're using all the technology that you can. More forensic science, making sure that we're up to date on the most available technology. Making sure that the person who is elected coroner, that they take the proper classes in education and they are most up to date on technology, forensics, and science, and investigating deaths, and how we can improve that process of efficiency of investigating deaths.
One of the main things we need to really get down to is getting blood toxicology back. It takes sometimes 60 to 90 days for us to get it back. And if that's way too long, it leaves the family hanging. They don't know what to think. But we need to get it where it's much quicker on toxicology. The classes we take, on like gunshot wounds, we learn the distance with entry or exit wound. I'm taking a special class later on blood analysis. It tells you blood splatter, all these kind of different things. You got to have one of the most important things an investigator can have is common sense. If you go in there thinking you know everything, then it's going to be a screw up. You got to have common sense. You work with investigators. You never make up your mind right off the bat. You work with everybody. Your teamwork is one of the most important things. And if there's any doubt, any type of homicide, it's going to the crime lab. Suicide is going to the crime lab. It's against the law to leave a bullet in a body. If a person commits suicide, they left a note, and they were 100% issue of suicide, but that bullet did not exit, then you have to take it to a crime lab and remove the body. It is against the law in the state of Georgia to leave a bullet in a body. And so it's a lot more technology, but we need to get things in the higher level, like in the crime lab and all, get them at times where they can move things along a little faster and get things done. Thank you.
Our final question for the office of coroner will be about areas for improvement. What do you believe are the key areas where the coroner's office needs improvement? How do you plan to address inefficiencies, improve communication, or update processes to make the office more effective?
main things we're having problems with the Coroners Association is coroners that get elected that don't do the job. I have a newspaper that called me yesterday, questioned me about a county close to ours, where the coroner never shows up. The person that's elected coroner must do their job. They cannot hand everything out to deputy coroners. Deputy coroners didn't get elected. And also, when something major happens, a judge or somebody, they ask, we don't want to talk to the deputy coroner, we want the coroner here. You cannot put everything off on your deputy coroner. The coroner must make himself available. Out of over 3,000 coroner calls I've had, I might have missed 10. And you cannot get elected coroner and say, I'm going to have deputy coroners to do my job. It's very important for the coroner to be involved. He has to, I've testified in criminal court, federal court, state, civil court. I don't know how many times I've given testimony, and also I've even worked with Secret Service and FBI on a person that died under the Witness Protection Program in Peach County. So you got to work with a lot of people, and you've got to make sure the coroner does his job. That's the most important thing, and that's the biggest problem. If we keep fooling around, they're going to do away with the job of the coroner because the coroner's not doing their job. Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Okay, Shalonda Williams again. To bring the coroner's office up to date, first, we wanted to make sure that we're ready for our crisis response. And things such as developing plans for our next mass casualty event, with all the natural disasters, mass casualties that we're having lately, and also our next pandemic or epidemic like COVID. No one was prepared for COVID. If we were to come into a situation in our county and we have a mass casualty event where we have multiple people that are dying, how would we respond to that casualty? What process would we have in place? Who would help us in the event that we have multiple bodies? Where would we store those bodies? What hospitals would we take them to? With the morgue, we want to triage them. So that's one thing that we would do, because if you notice lately, the hurricane that we just had, Helene, with all the damage that is close around us and all the people that have died and trying to get to those people. I even saw where a coroner could not even get to the person to identify or declare them dead. So we need to make sure that we're being proactive and not reactive and have plans in place for that. We want to make sure that we're having a public health initiative, working closely with the health department. If we see anything going on and investigating there, say for instance suicide in young kids, young children, with all the bullying and all that going on now, are we collaborating with those schools? Are we collaborating with the Board of Education and letting them know, hey, this is an issue that I'm seeing that occurred in our county. What are we going to do about it? How can I help you as coroner to get this under control? We should be available for them. And then also, just collaboration in general with our sheriffs, with our GBI, with our local hospital. Just making sure that the coroner is available for whatever crisis may come up, how they're available. What are you seeing when people are dying with gun violence, gang violence? How can a coroner office help with that? Just making yourself available for the community. And then lastly, and not least, just making sure that we're improving our investigation.
What kind of camera is that? I don't know. I got my media person to set it up. I do some video so I have I have not seen that camera before.
Getting that death certificate back, so they can do the things that they need to do to bury their family members that are not a holdup in that process. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates.
pursue the American dream, you gotta have a car. Anybody that thinks that you can't get around in life without a car really doesn't understand life. So I've got a plan to put people in a brand new car for less than $200 a month. And how do I know that these can happen? Because you're looking at the guy that used to be responsible for the federal student loan program. We made direct loans of $110 billion a year. If we could put out $110 billion a year for education loans, we could certainly put it out for affordable housing loans and affordable car loans. And then the last thing is people need a job. And while we all sit in these great institutions of academic learning, people need hands-on training. They need hands-on. And so I have a plan that will basically pay $18 an hour to somebody that wants to learn a trade. And my whole position is, it's better to be paid to learn than it is to pay to learn. So the bottom line, let's get people wheels, let's let them be able to go to the grocery store, the doctor's office, take their kids to a better school. Let's make sure you got a great place to live, and let's make sure you got a good paying job. And that's what it boils down to.
My next question for you, Mr. Johnson, regards support for public education. With the introduction of school vouchers, how do you plan to ensure that public schools, especially those in underfunded areas like Fort Valley, continue to receive the necessary funding and resources to provide quality education?
School vouchers and public funding are not mutually exclusive. There's a lot of argument by the public school teachers and basically the administrators of public schools that when somebody has the opportunity to pull their child and go to a private school or even homeschool, that's taking money out of the system that's going to hurt basically the other students. That's just flat false. Our public school system is funded at the local level by taxation. It's supplemented at the federal level, and it's also supplemented at the state level. I believe that we can have both. And what I really want to see is great public schools. But in order for our people to be able to go to the better public schools, I get back to the fact that they got to have wheels to be able to take their kids there. And so at the end of the day, let's don't buy into this teachers union concept that every time a student pulls out with a $6,500 voucher, which our state just recently approved, and that's going to hurt another student in a public school. It's not, because the public school system has the ability to tax to whatever level they need in order to provide the funding that's required.
My next question for you, Mr. Johnson, is regarding city consolidation concerns.
I'm sorry, speak up.
Regarding city consolidation concerns.
Yes.
There have been discussions about potentially consolidating Fort Valley with the city of Byron. What is your stance on this issue, and how do you think consolidation would affect the identity, governance, and services of Fort Valley?
Well, first of all, that is a local issue. It's not a federal issue, and I believe the federal government should not be involved in that discussion. So whether it's a consolidated or non-consolidated set of governments, federal resources will be applied according to what the people of this part of Georgia decide.
Thank you, sir. My next question regards government support. How do you plan to work with both state and local governments to ensure that Fort Valley is supported in its efforts to improve infrastructure, public services, and housing?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Fort Valley and Fort Valley State University. I used to be in charge of the HBCU, that's Historically Black Colleges and Universities, which you probably know about. I used to be in charge of the Capital Finance Committee at the Department of Education. I was the number 3 person at the U.S. Department of Education. We've got billions of dollars that we can make available to Fort Valley State University, and I would tell your president, Dr. Jones, that if I am your United States Congress, I'm going to work very, very hard to make sure that Fort Valley receives the money that has been shortchanged over all these years. So that's at the university level. At the city and county level, we've got to make sure that we're bringing together the mayors, we've got to make sure that we're bringing together the sheriffs, and we've got to have a discussion that involves the local authorities, the state authorities, and the federal authorities. As a United States Congressman, I have convening power. I have the ability to invite people to come and sit down and talk, and guess what? As I'm sure that other congressmen have clearly demonstrated, they will come. So let's use those powers to make things work for people.
My next question regards grant and funding opportunities. What steps will you take to ensure that Fort Valley has access to state state and federal grants, and how will you help the city government efficiently manage and allocate those funds?
The grant process, when I was at the U.S. Department of Education, I oversaw the deployment of about $10 billion a year in grants. What was amazing to me is people did not put in the grant request. So one of the things that we got to do is help the different parts of Fort Valley and the rest of Georgia and the university understand that grants are there for the asking. Just make sure you request. And there's also something called basically an unsolicited grant request where you can put forth a proposition or a proposal. I would encourage that, I would welcome that, and I would even make sure that we got coaches to help deliver on that.
My next question for you, Mr. Johnson, regards community engagement. How will you involve residents in the decision-making process for improvements to Fort Valley, ensuring their voices are heard and considered?
You know, what's been interesting as I've run for Congress is the media, whether it's the local press, the local broadcast, don't take an interest in what the congressman has to say or fact that they're even in the race. But what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the media is paying attention to the issues, and when the media pays attention to the issues, the government officials and even business officials pay attention to it. So what I intend to do, I say town hall meetings, but let's just talk about it through the lens of our town cares meetings. We've got to have people sitting down, and we got to demand that the press be present to hear what these voices are talking about, because that's the only way it gets escalated and elevated to actually being actionable at a government level. And by the way, I'm sorry to be talking so loud. I want to make sure you hear me. And by the way, I'm going to take a moment for a little joke right here. One of the things he hasn't asked me about is affordability. Affordability is the biggest issue we're facing during this election cycle, and who can actually make the next 2 years best for you. But my wife shows me a cartoon every day from Maxine, and yesterday's cartoon was, prices have gotten so high, I'm even crying over unspilled milk.
That's all, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
At this time, our other candidate for County Commissioner Post 5, Wade Yoder, just walked in. He was at a county commissioners meeting. We will give him a chance to give an opening statement.
Good evening, everyone, and my apologies for being so late. We had a meeting this evening, so it's an honor to be here. I appreciate being the invite, and definitely I'm looking forward to hopefully serving Peach County another 4 years. I've enjoyed the past 7.5 or close to 8 years, and I feel we've done a lot of work together as a board, and many that know me, I have gnat-like tendencies when things are on my mind to get done, and so that's all I have to. Now I'll turn it on.
Our first question for County Commissioner Post 5 is about public services expansion. What new or improved services do you plan to create that will directly benefit the people who elected you? How do you intend to prioritize services that address key issues like public safety, healthcare, education, and housing? Mr. Alderman.
Good evening again. One of the things we must do is learn to communicate. And when I say communicate, that means communicate with everyone in the county. No, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. If you live in Byron, or if you live in Fort Valley, we have to come together to work together. Think about those things when it comes to public safety. We talk about the issue with gang violence. Talk about the issue with health care. You have to come together, create a plan, facilitate the plan, and follow that plan with everyone involved. Involve the citizens, involve those stakeholders who live in those communities, who need that public health care. Ask them, what is it that you need? What is it that we can do to assist you to better serve you as constituents? That's our job, to find out what the people need and to assist them. So don't worry about where I live. I need to find out where everyone lives. I want to represent every community that serves in the lines of Peach County.
Mr. Yoder.
I agree that when it comes to the post 5 position, it's really important to look at the county as a whole and make sure that all areas are taken care of and served. And it's an enjoyable work, you know, because you work with your different municipal entities and getting everybody to try to work together. And so when it comes to services, things that can advance things in our county, there's a few things that like with mental health, EMS services that directly impacted on the mental health part. When it comes to law enforcement, crisis medical, judicial, there's and as well as our mental health service provider, quite some time back, is actually here at Fort Valley State, that we got a lot of people together that were having issues with cogs in the wheel not working properly. And we have a lot of people that are working in the same direction, just not together. So what we're doing is bringing everybody together, law enforcement, judicial, crisis medical, our mental health service provider, Middle Flint, and trying to get everybody on the same page so our services can move in the same direction and as efficiently as possible. Because one thing that does happen is if we don't watch it, things like mental health, homelessness, and things like that, it can wind up cutting into budget expenses that wind up affecting other things. So getting everybody to work together and come together and do it as efficiently and as caring as possible within our community, because we got stuck with some. Okay.
The next question regards bridging the communication gap. Many residents feel disconnected from local government. What actions will you take to bridge the communication gap between the county commission and the people, ensuring they feel represented and heard? Mr. Yoder.
Communication gap between individuals and the Board of Commissioners?
Yes, sir.
First is being as transparent as possible. I believe in keeping as strong magnifying glass over our activities, the work we're doing. It helps us in the long run, and most that know me know that if you got an hour and you need something explained, you need to talk about something, I'll take it, or longer. But one of the first things that I did when I called it Hicks Stream, it was simple. It was hanging an iPad in the back of the room, but it made so that people that couldn't make it to our meetings could be able to access what's going on. I think one-on-one communication, making sure that people know what's going on, the work we're doing for them, is very important. And I do have a page online and on my website that I got what I call a community work report card, and it's available. So that's all I have on that.
Mr. Alderman.
Yes, thank you. Communication is the key. Transparency, we follow it. Transparency between the citizens of the entire county, transparency between the citizens of Byron, the citizens of Fort Valley, Powersville. You have to keep them in the loop. You have to keep them informed. Those are the ones who voted for you. They must know. Don't come into a position where you say that, well, now is not the time to inform the citizens of Peach County what's going on. The citizens need to know at all times. Involve them, whether you do surveys to get them involved, get their opinion, whether you do open town hall meetings, whether you do a neighborhood watch setting to ask the citizens to reflect on what's going on in their community, to involve them in what's going on in local government. Explain to them, this is what's going on at our city council meeting. This is what's going on at our county commission meeting. On the local level, you have a voice. You can come sit. There should be an open door policy to speak to a local government official at any time to bring your voice, to bring your concern. It is your neighborhood. I don't live in everybody's neighborhood, but together as one. If you bring the issue to me, then I can address it. That is what transparency in government is all about. not just being transparent sometime when you feel there's a need to be transparent because someone asked you to be transparent about an issue, because the issue is in social media. You should be transparent 110% of the time when it comes to the citizens of Peach County. Thank you.
The final question regards policy creation based on public input. How will you ensure that the policies you create are reflective of the wants and needs of the people and not driven by political pressure or special interests? Mr. Alderman.
Again, thank you. Policies is what I'm driven on. Each and every day, life is about policies. Whatever you do in life, there's a policy that should guide and govern you. So when you, as a commissioner, create policies or assist to create policies, you should stand on those policies. And if you deviate from those policies, there should be an amendment, let the citizen know, hey, this is a policy, but based on this, based on the current data, based on the new information that we receive from our data tools, we have to deviate from that policy just because there's an issue that we have a concern about. Policies are driven data. They are data driven. So whenever we come together as a unit, as a commissioner, all 5 commissions, let's sit down and talk about those policies. But policies should be based on the data that is from the community. All community assessments tells you everything you need to know about your community. Whether it's a housing crisis, which we do have. Whether it's a healthcare crisis, which we do have. Mental health is very rapid in this community. Peach County is very large, but Fort Valley is very small. There is a big disparity when it comes between Fort Valley and Byron when it comes to mental health capacity. Fort Valley State University is excluded. Why is that? You have Byron, Fort Valley, Powellville, there's Fort Valley State University. You have over 2,500 students on this campus that has a voice. Why not listen to them? Include them in your policy. When it comes to making decisions about this community also exists on this campus. Not just homecoming season, when Fort Valley State University alumni come here once a year, and then you get involved with Fort Valley State University by putting law enforcement all up down 49. That's not what it's all about. Community is our key. It has to be an entanglement between Fort Valley State University, all of Peach County, Byron, Fort Valley, and Powellville. That creates this community. That strives this community to continue to uplift this community. This is Peach County, the heart of Central Georgia. When you come through Fort Valley, you got to go through here to get to one riders of Bibb County. So let's build economic growth here. Keep it here. Thank you.
Mr. Yoder.
So when it comes to policy and the need for it, especially on the local level, we have to listen to, because you have state law, and then you can break it down into the needs that are at a local level. There's a lot of things that are in place. Whenever something is changed, I think we need to ask the why question and ask it repeatedly until we get to figure out what's going on. Sometimes it's simply that we're not doing our job right. We have to know the services that we represent as a county, and that helps keep me humble because it's not a high and lofty job. It's an honor to be a commissioner, but when it comes to the services that we are elected to represent, we have a duty to try to do our best to try to make so that those are better, run more efficiently, and also keep our eyes open for new services that the community really needs. And when that's done and we actually really stay in tune with the community, what they're saying, what they're needing, I think we all win, but we have to keep in mind the entire county and everybody working together, what everybody is needing. So I do think we need to be careful when it comes to policy, because there's a lot of people prior to us that have worked really hard, and we stand on their shoulders. And but I do think we need to constantly be looking at things we can improve.
Thank you to our candidates for County Commissioner Post 5, Mr. Yoder and Mr. Alderman. At this point, for the next 15 minutes, we'll allow questions from the audience. There is a mic. As you raise your hand, you will be acknowledged. You can ask any candidate any question you want. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond.
Do we have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to share. Oh, she's. Thank you. So this is for the sheriff. What methods will you use to evaluate the effectiveness of your training for mental health and cultural competency to ensure that your staff are not only obtaining the training certificate, but they're also applying it to their everyday interactions with the people in the community? So what methods are you going to use in order to make sure the trainings are effective?
We will make sure that we get with correct help, Middle Flint, have their people to come in and train to help us look for the signs of mental health, and be able to collaborate and be able to work with mental health and make sure that we're doing the job right. So we will not just only certificates from the training centers, we will have doctors and physicians to train us to make sure that we're doing it correct. Like I say, if we go to the training center or we have in-house training, that's limited. But I will ask for professional training. If not the whole staff, at least a supervisor or somebody designated who's going to keep going for it and keep doing what they're supposed to do and not just let it go down the wayside. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews, before you answer, she wants to redirect her question. We want to be fair and make sure so that Mr. Shannon will clearly understand the question and answer. Yes, I don't think maybe I didn't say it clearly, but it was about how will you evaluate whether your staff are applying the skills in their interactions with the community. What would be your evaluation tool that you would use to ensure that it's just not, I got a certificate, but you see them how they interact and apply the skills when they are pulling people over or when they are arresting people? How will you know, and what's your evaluation tool going to be?
Okay, evaluation. The same as I said before about professional help and training. I will make sure that we can at least get that professional help to do evaluation. I don't see what's wrong with at least once a year, maybe twice a year, to have the professionals evaluate employees, make sure that they're doing right, have reports on file when they do have an incident with mental health, evaluate those incidents, make sure that we're doing right. If we're not, tell us what we're doing wrong, help us out in a professional way, not just training, like you say, evaluation. And I would love to have the professionals evaluate us, not somebody that teach how to pull a call. Thank you.
Thank you, that's a very good question. One thing that we did with my current agency, Roberta Police Department, is we implemented body cams. All of our officers have body cams. We have car cams also, but that body cam shows exactly what that officer is doing, how he's interacting with folks. One other thing would be to implement those, and I don't know if they have them, but would be to implement those into the jail, so that all those jailers, all those corrections folks, wear a body cam also. And you have a policy that says those will be reviewed at any time by the supervisory staff, by the sheriff himself, to make sure that our people are doing what our policies say. Another way to ensure that we're doing what we do would be to achieve state certification. State certification will holds law enforcement to a higher standard than they already hold themselves. And it is reviewed. So yes, training and also making sure that we review camera footage. And like I said, body cams are the way. You would not believe how invaluable those pieces of equipment are to law enforcement.
Are there any more questions from the audience?
Hello. Hey, this is for the city council. Like, I was wondering, like, it seemed like a lot of resources are targeted towards Byron and Fort Valley, being like little to none of the resources over the years. I was wondering, like, what's the cause there, or some changes gonna be made, anything? You know, with that?
County Commissioner goes first. Mr. Yoder first.
I was saying like a lot of the resources from the county resources, like they target more towards Byron than Fort Valley. It's like over the years, like Fort Valley getting a little resources, and we had the college. You know, like I think we should be getting like just as much, or equal number of resources that Byron getting. Like you can go to Byron, you see Byron just growing by leaps and bounds. Fort Valley kind of like a recession, like.
So was your question that do you feel that more resources are being directed towards Byron?
Yeah.
Okay, so the city of Byron and the city of Fort Valley is the municipal agencies, which Warner Robins is growing into Beach. We don't direct resources to them. Sometimes there are things like that we help the municipal, like take for instance Fort Valley, or we partner with Fort Valley on the intersection project. There's something we help with in Byron with their future community center, and so there are things we can do like that partner with them. But as far as we try to be real careful when it comes to what we do have, like take for instance we have the North Beach Park up in the Byron area, which that's under the county. So we try to be real even with how resources are spread out through the county, and also things like roads. So if you look at the municipal boundaries of the city of Warner Robins, city of Byron, city of Fort Valley, we're kind of the fabric in between, but we can partner with them. And I'd love to, if there's anything that, because we really try to keep an eye on that to make sure that everything is done fair, and part of that is helped with how the posts are divided up with the county commissioners. And because even though each one is concerned with the entire county, they are going to, and they should, rightfully so, really look out for their posts. Now, Commissioner for Post 5, which is at large, is over the whole county, and so it has a lot to do with how everybody works together. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of, but I've been here my whole life, right? I actually worked for both parks once upon a time. And I seen when they had got like a grant or something, when like I seen how Byron Park got real big, like grew real big, got all the fields and all that. You see, I see Beach County Park, I see Byron's Park, I see Fort Valley's Park. I kind of seen the difference. Over time, Fort Valley's kind of catching up a little bit, but it's still the same. Been the same for about 30 years. Fort Valley Park ain't that much change. They got like a little water thing, they got a couple of things. I seen Byron go from Like more fields, more, some everything. Like it just got like real big. Cause I actually worked at the time, I worked for Peach County, you know, the rec department.
Okay, so what in particular, because we do really try to make so that when it comes to funding, now there are some things like just recently that South Peach Park qualified for a very large grant that North Peach didn't. And so sometimes, so that actually happened recently, which should really do a lot down here at this end, but the one up in Byron didn't qualify for it.
Okay.
So we're trying.
Thank you for the question. That goes back to transparency, and that is something that our government needs. So you have a very valid question. From the naked eye, you see Byron, you say Byron is progressive, and Fort Valley is not progressive as fast as Byron. So what are we doing about that? So shared government should be number one. Meaning if we have a grant, if we get $1 million grant, so what are the needs of Byron? What are the needs of Fort Valley? The data that you collect, the data that you should be making policy on should tell you the needs of Byron, the needs of Fort Valley, what money should be allocated for. Specifically what we're talking about, Parks and Recs, correct? So Parks and Recs for Byron, North Peak Park versus South Peach Park. So it's always been a disparity. You say Byron Parks, they're thriving, they're doing this. Fort Valley looks like they're not doing anything. That is what you've seen. I've been to those parks daily, weekly. I had activities at those parks, and I've had the same question. I've questioned not the current director, but the past director. What can we do? And the number one thing that he would always tell me was, yeah, well, you know, the county commission won't do anything about it. We go to them, we ask for money, but they tell me no. And I would say, David, give me that in writing. Because the people that I live with, the parents that I see on a regular basis, the kids that I see on a regular basis, don't understand you telling them that the county commission won't vote yes if you are asking. So I don't understand that. But what we have to do as citizens of this community is vote. Vote will make a difference. Then you can see the difference. We've always talked about livelihood and money and funds. Byron is a thriving town. It has the interstate. You got the interstate coming in. You got people coming in left and right. They're doing well, but not as well as they should be. We have plans to do some things in North Peach Park, in the city of Byron, to build it up, even the infrastructure, that economically they will thrive even more. And the same thing as North and South Peach Park. You have an institution right here that you don't even utilize. There's so many things that you can be doing in the city of Fort Valley if you tap into your own resources in the city of Fort Valley. Number one, this HBCU right here, Fort Valley State University, a land grant institution, 1890. Come on, you have to tap into those resources. This is an ag institution. So many resources here, but the county and the city and the university are not on the same page. There are no collaboration between the three of them at the same time. You have to involve this institution. This institution is the #1 public HBCU in the state of Georgia 7 years in a row. How many of you knew that? Is it publicized? Do the city government get involved in that? Do the city government publicize that? Do the county publicize that? When you get off the interstate in Byron, why is there a sign saying Fort Valley State University, the #1 public HBCU 7 years in a row? This is Peach County celebrating. The only time you see a sign up that has Fort Valley State name is homecoming. The city of Fort Valley has some signs now, but Byron has no signs. Why? Tap into your resources. You talking about economic growth for long term? Tap into your resources. This university has so much to offer. You talking about affordable housing. You talking about mental health. You talking about all that. They have that right here on this campus. But have you sat down to the table with Dr. Paul Jones to have a conversation? City government, county government, no. I had a conversation with Dr. Jones the other day, since you asked me to say this. I had a conversation with Dr. Jones just the other day. I said, are you sure there has not been a conversation between Byron City government, Fort Valley City government, and the county with Fort Valley State University to see how we all can partner to better the county, Peach County? He said, no. I said, let me ask you the question again. I said, maybe you received an invitation and had a prior engagement and couldn't make it. No. Why? This city, this county, as I stated earlier, this county, there are so many people that come through Peach County, Fort Valley, to get to Houston County, to go shop, to get to Bibb County, to go shop. Why can't you stop in Fort Valley? Why can't we build economic growth right here in Peach County to keep those people from going to other counties to spend their money? Fort Valley State students, they're here for every year, all year long. But where do they go spend their money? Houston County, Bibb County, because we don't offer them anything. They are citizens of this community. They are citizens of this community. Talking about economic growth, keep the funds here. Offer those students something. Thank you, sir. Any more questions? One more question from the audience. I'm still, because I told you I love this. I love this community. I'll fight for this community. It doesn't matter what part I am. I'm for the citizens of this community. I've been, hey man, y'all, I'm here 30 years. Mr. Yoder.
I do agree about us needing to tap into our resources, and I do think this university is way underutilized. I do have a track record. You can ask Dr. Jones, Dr. Fontenot. We had a meeting a little while back that has to do with trying to partner with Fort Valley State on our animal control services. We have a wonderful opportunity for both sides to partner. There is a lot of opportunity, and it sprung into further conversation. The properties around here, it is no reason why we don't work together and do a special tax district or something to shape things what residents can benefit in this area. There is so much that we can do, and I agree there is a lot, but I will say that there has been quite a bit of talks behind the scenes. You can ask Dr. Jones. In fact, the First Lady is on our chamber board, and Mr. Wallace is also Dean of Students, and he's on our chamber board. So there's a lot of background there.
I want this for Mr. Johnson. You said that you have worked with HBCUs, and I'm kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Columbus talked about, that Fort Valley State is so underutilized. And not only is it not just underutilized, it's not even recognized on the statewide. Small towns like Swainsboro have Walmarts, they have shopping centers, they have really wrapped the whole town around that school. And it's not even a land grant institution. So what would your role be in making Fort Valley State University look like Georgia Southern, University of Georgia, downtown, and everything else? What would you bring to the table to make that happen?
That's a great question. First of all, Sonny Perdue, who's the chancellor, former governor, and I have talked about the importance of the HBCUs in Georgia. We've got Fort Valley State, we've got Albany State in this district, very important schools. I drove around the campus today, actually went over to try and see Dr. Jones, but he was tied up. But the thing that struck me is why we don't have 5,000, why do we don't have 10,000, why do we don't have 15,000 students on this college campus? And it really boils down to people do not appreciate how incredible the educational opportunities are at Fort Valley State University. When I was at the U.S. Department of Education, I led what we call Project Success, which is to basically put a tremendous amount of money behind the HBCUs. I was part of basically part of the task force that President Trump put in place to actually raise the importance of HBCUs. HBCUs, unfortunately, are not attracting the students that they have attracted in the past because, why go to Fort Valley when you could go to the University of Georgia and have a great time and party all the time? And the answer is because Fort Valley State University gives a better education, and I keep preaching that all the time. We do know that. And you asked a qualitative question. You asked a question earlier about how do you qualitatively evaluate program success. And I think the University System of Georgia does a very, very poor job as a university system to bring forth the power that Fort Valley State University has. I want to see Fort Valley State University be nationally recognized. I actually played a role a number of years ago in bringing black students from Brazil to HBCUs in the United States because they were very anxious to actually come to historically black colleges and universities. So I was successful in bringing 20,000 students from northern Brazil to schools in the United States. Fort Valley was one of the schools that they had on their list. And of course, we all know about Howard. Howard gets $250 million a year just by being Howard. Why doesn't Fort Valley State University and every HBCU get millions of dollars because of the important role that they play? As a member of the United States Congress, I know the power that a congressman can have on influencing the U.S. Department of Education to actually put the money towards making this school a much better, and it starts with marketing.
Mr. Wayne, the time has elapsed.
Thank you.
There was a question that came from the floor. The person didn't want to ask, but it goes to our two sheriff candidates. They wanted to know, with all the recent videos that we've seen of police brutality in the African American community, what is it that you all plan to do to help de-escalate things from getting to the point of another African American being killed by an officer unwarranted?
Once again, communication. Getting out into the community and letting these people know you. I mean, our department is not that big. Let these people know you by your name, last name. Get out, coffee with a cop, neighborhood watch program. Neighborhood watch program, you don't just have to talk about crime, you can talk about the parks. Get out and mingle. Like I say, training, getting to know these people. There may be somebody in the neighborhood that you have to put your hands on one day, but if they know you, you can talk to them. Maybe that'll calm them down. But once, I will always say, communications, get involved. Let them know that we are humans also. We can shake hands, bump fists, give hugs, other than just putting you in handcuffs. So that's my main thing, is being able to have events, cookouts, like I say, neighborhood watch, get to know the community, and the community get to know deputies.
Mr. Matthews?
I think Buck and I both have answered this question many times. It is about training. It is about being open. It is about being accessible. We have to have an open dialogue. We have to understand what the problems are, what the perceptions are in the black community of law enforcement. But we also it has to go both ways. We have to understand what our officers are facing, what our officers are trying to do. And there has to be a cooperation. There has to be an understanding that, and I have children, and I told my children, and I do it. If I get stopped, I roll my windows down. I put my hands on top of the steering wheel. I wait for the officer to approach. I listen to what he has to say. I let him know. I understand he wants to see my driver's license, insurance, or whatever. But before I move my hands off of my steering wheel, that I have a loaded gun on my hip. It is very important that we understand about cooperation on both sides. We need to understand there is a fear. We need to understand why there is a fear. But we also need to understand that law enforcement is not always wrong. And you have to know that if one of my deputies treat you wrong, I'll be there to listen to what's going on. We'll look at the body cam footage and the car cam footage. We'll look at that.
My
question is to Mr. Yoder. I would like to know why y'all feel it necessary to open up another senior citizen environment when the one here need to work on, because I go there every day, and they don't have a handicap bathroom.
I'm sorry, I heard the part about the senior center.
Why do you feel like it's necessary to build a senior citizen environment when the one here need renovated, and it doesn't even have a handicap bathroom?
You're saying that the bathrooms are not handicapped, except that does blow my mind, because Ms. Mobley seems to be on top of everything, and we give her everything. I don't recall an instance where she's come in that we haven't given her what she needed. We try to make it happen for them. As far as the one in Byron, I think our seniors have really gotten hit unfairly with inflation, and I think that we need to look out for ways that we can offset costs. Also, one thing that you know, like my parents, their generation, my concern was largely had to do with making sure that seniors all over the county, and even though they did their best to try to plug in the seniors at the north end of the county, they didn't have access to services. Like if they needed Medicaid, Medicare guidance, different things like there to be able to plug into services. And so, out of concern of a lot of the seniors do not want to be a burden, and so that was a lot of what it was, and we were told that money was available. So
the time has elapsed, Mr. Wade. Mr. Alderman, would you like to speak on that?
Yes, ma'am. Again, seniors are very important. So if we're looking at the disparity, if you're saying that data has proven that Byron needed a new senior citizen center, then so be it, and that's what you do. But also, I know for a fact that the senior citizen here in Fort Valley is very electric. I mean, either you're going to renovate it or tear it down and build a new one. So if the citizens of Peach County or Fort Valley are saying, hey, they've been expressing this concern, not just tonight, but over time. So why hasn't anything been done? Why haven't you allocated funds, moved funds around to make sure that the senior citizen here in Fort Valley also receive an adequate place to go and spend time and relax? So that's what we need to look at. That's what we talk about, that transparency piece. If we're going to work for the entire county, let's work for the entire county. Let our data specifically tell us what we need to do. Specifically show us where we need to be allocating funds and moving funds and looking at all of the citizens, not just one particular group. That's what we need to stop doing. Transparency and data will help them do that.
Okay, another question from the floor, and this goes in line with the question that she just asked to our county commissioners. There were funds that were given by the ARP to our county and city. The city of Fort Valley, especially Post 2, is very frustrated as to where and how those funds were allocated. Mr. Alderman, if elected, do you feel those funds were properly allocated? And if not, what would you do? What would you have done differently?
If elected, funds that are allocated for certain entities should go to certain entities. But again, we have to let our data, again, once you write for those grants, you specifically putting in that you specifically write in that notice of award, you want to specifically tell you what this money is going to be allocated for. That's how you receive those funds. You got the right of, hey, I'm going to spend $1 million for here and $2 million for here. I just can't get those funds once I receive them and change my mind and then move that money where I want to move. You have to spend that money where you say you're going to spend it. So, in saying that, once the data tells me that, hey, I need to spend the funds, if the federal government gives me those funds, $5 million, I need to use the $5 million for the entire county and not just give one set, half, let's say $4.5 million, and another group $5.5 million. That's disparity. that's not being transparent, or it's not fair for the citizens. And so the citizens of Fort Valley have a right to be concerned, and they should voice their opinion to find out where. Go to the county commissioner meeting. You are able to go, voice your opinion. If you want to be on the agenda, you have to submit that in writing a couple days in advance. So you can go there and ask them face to face, hey, explain how we got the funds from the federal government, but only this amount went to Fort Valley, this amount went to Byron. And they're not the same amount. I promise you, they're not the same amount.
Okay,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Alderman, again, to clarify the question, it was directed specifically for the ARP funds that were given post-COVID from the President Biden.
Correct.
Before you start, Mr. Alderman, this has to be our last question from the audience for the evening before I close the remarks. Yeah, this will be our last question.
Closing remarks.
No, this will be our last question from the audience before closing remarks.
Okay. Again, concerning those funds, and I understand what you're asking, so why didn't those funds go more toward Fort Valley, but more went toward Byron? That's the question, correct? Correct? I want to make sure I get it correct.
It was asking, do you feel they were properly allocated, and if not, how would you have allocated those funds?
No, they were not properly allocated. But again, how will I address it? Looking at the data, because when we asked for those funds, when we received those funds, we already knew what we wanted to do with them. And so let's be transparent. If I tell the federal government I'm going to receive these $5 million, Fort Valley needs $2.5 million, or Byron needs $2.5 million. And let's be real about it. It's transparent. But if there's a greater need for Fort Valley, then Fort Valley should have received more of the funding. So you let your data tell you where the need is. Let the people of the community tell you, hey, I have a housing issue in Fort Valley. Hey, I have a transportation issue in Fort Valley. I have a homelessness problem. I have a mental health concern. That's where you should put those funds, where the greatest need is. You have an education need in this community. Early childhood education is an issue in this community. So what are we doing about it? Have we addressed that? Have we spoken with the university? If you do not know, let me tell you now, Fort Valley State University has an early Head Start and a Head Start program. Fort Valley State University is the only university or college in the state of Georgia with one. Others may have a child development program, but it's very different. Very different. We receive those grants yearly. 2 of them. That equals almost $15 million for Peach County and several other districts in the middle Georgia area. That Fort Valley State is the grantee. Again, we don't utilize our resources. Utilize Fort Valley State University.
Thank you, Mr. Alderman. Mr. Yoder?
I'm not sure where that comes from about the funds being that more were spent in Byron, because between Fort Valley Youth Center of Excellence, Matthew Scipio Impact Center, the Hunt Cultural Center, we spent quite a bit more down here than, or a lot of, there was, and those entities serve. I don't think they have any walls built up. I think they do their best to serve the entire community, and that's what we're trying to do, is trying to make sure that those funds are like a seed that will continue to grow and isn't exasperated right away. So as far as, like, I would like to respond as far as like with the funding used for the senior center, it wasn't. We helped with some furniture. The reason that it wasn't actually done through the county, it was done through the city of Byron, is, well, first the city of Fort Valley owns the building that the senior center is in down here. We help with that and we run operations. But when I found out, I couldn't get anywhere with trying to get a senior center started or interest there, but when I found out that the funding was available for senior services at the north end of the county, worked through Byron, they were interested in doing it, and so it's actually run under the city of Byron.
I would like to thank all the candidates at this time and the audience for your questions. If you didn't have any questions that you weren't able to get in, we'll have a meet and greet in the lobby after our closing remarks by Ms. Janaya Faber.
Good evening, everyone. I am Janiyah Favors, a junior visual and performing arts major hailing from the prosperous city of Atlanta, Georgia. I would like to thank everyone today for coming out, and I would also like to personally thank our candidates for taking time out of their busy schedules to come and talk. Your engagement and questions have truly highlighted the issues that matter most in our community. As we move forward, let us remember that our voices have the power to shape the future. We encourage you all to stay informed, participate in electoral processes, and support the candidates who share visions and align with the same visions you have for progress. Because together, we can make a difference. I would also like to thank Peach Concerned Citizens, Boys to Men, the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, St. Peter's Church, Al Devin Jackson of A. Jackson Productions, and the FESU Police Department. I would also like to inform you all about the deadlines for upcoming election. Registration deadline is on October 7th. The absentee ballot deadline is on October 27th and should arrive by mail by November 5th. And early voting begins October 15th and ends on November 1st. Again, thank you all for coming out, and if you have any further questions, it will be taken in the lobby area. Oh, and for any students, if you haven't scanned your IDs yet, we'll also be in the lobby area. Thank you all, safe travels home, and let's continue to progress and change the future. Thank you.
Okay, we will ask that all candidates please proceed to the lobby. If everyone will please hold your seat to allow them to proceed to the lobby. There they will take your questions. They will have pamphlets and things of that nature to hand out.